A scrum? Okay, Jaden feeds it. Let's watch. Ooh, that's pretty naughty. Okay, good job, Ox. Good job. Rappy. How's it? Welcome to the rugby update. The weather around here has finally started cooling down. My kids have finally started sleeping, and the positive vibes are back. With those positive vibes, I sat down on Saturday night to watch the first episode of the much anticipated Springbok documentary about the 2023 World Cup. Chasing the Sun 2, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the F-Bomb. Would you like to hear my thoughts and opinions on that first episode? Of course you would, you clicked on this video. What do you do when your character arc was completed in the first part of your World Cup trilogy? In the first Chasing the Sun docu-series, SuperSport had a nice low point to start from, with the whole 57-0 saga against New Zealand and the late appointment of Rassie Erasmus before the World Cup. That left a nice hill to climb throughout the episodes, culminating in that final win right at the end. A nice warm and fuzzy hero's tale with plenty of spent tissue boxes at the end. In Season 2, the Springboks do not start as a basket case, and they even went to the World Cup as one of the favourites. The darling coach has done little to ingratiate himself to the outside world post-2019, and SA Rugby is in rude-ish health. Tough spot to start if you're trying to build empathy for your gigantic, mutant rugby-playing superstars. The filmmakers obviously knew this, so there's no contrived setup of the box being written off or down and out. Instead, they lean on the basket case state of South Africa itself and use that to try and get you to root for them. It's not as compelling as Season 1, but since I live in that basket case state myself, it's plenty good enough for me. With motivation cleared out the way, they go straight into Game 1 of the World Cup and how they prepped for Scotland. Cue lots of training drills, lots of player interviews and lots of team meetings giving only tantalizing glimpses at the ankles of their tactics. In the most obvious outcome of the century, I liked it. They weren't trying to jerk out my tears and they stuck mostly to the prep and the pressure of that first game. Production value is through the roof with great audio, great music and very good camera work, including every angle you can think of for talking head interviews. They also grab some clips from podcasts and interview players and journalists to help set the scene and remind you of the state of rugby at that time. All very normal stuff for this type of filmmaking. One of the defining features of the first documentary is back as well. I think the second word and the last word of episode 1 is fuck. So if your kids are around, just know that they'll be telling their friends the next day to share their fucking sandwich or they will fuck them up physically. You've been warned. I can't wait for episode 2, which focuses on the island game. My IMDb rating, 3 Malherbes out of 5. Best moment is Don Heeman talking about Piers Skuman with about the same amount of respect that Tate has for his followers. And we'll get back to the movies next week to check out episode 2 and maybe review that as well. For now, let's do a lightning roundup of the Urk. Friday's first game was between the high-flying Glasgow and the visiting Cardiff. Cardiff started hot, but just like cheap pools, cheap rugby teams lack depth. And Welsh teams are very cheap right now, so the Glasgow bench fought back after a big opening deficit. At the same time, Munster was forced, by gunpoint maybe, to go to the Mordor of rugby venues and face the lamentable, morally bankrupt and possibly corrupt Ospreys. Everybody is saying this about the team from Swansea, not just me because the Lions are playing them this weekend. Anyway, Munster managed to bag the win and get out of there without any major international political scandals. No way, Osprey! Who said that? Saturday's first match was between the confusing Sharks and Ulster. And wouldn't you know it, the Sharks found a winning formula. That formula being 9 Springboks, including a full-bore, actual World Cup winning bomb squad front row in the second half. I only caught the highlights of the Scarlets hosting Benetton, and already, despite their poor form in the Six Nations, guys like Costello already have a bit of an air about them, having played international rugby. Benetton probably can't wait to get their newly scary internationals back either. Then it was a quick switch to Cape Town to watch the Stormers chuck it about with gay abandon in front of a happy home crowd. Edinburgh tried to stay in the fight, but the Stormers at home are one of the toughest assignments in Urk rugby these days. First the Cheetahs, then the Kings, then the Cheetahs, then the Kings, then the Cheetahs, then the Bulls, then the Stormers, then the Lions, and then the Sharks. All went to the dog track and all came back without a win. This past weekend, the Lions made history and became the first SA team to win in Galway, red card and all. Aaron Wainwright hosted the Bulls at Rodney Parade in one of the late games on Saturday. At least that's what it felt like, because the director could not stop filming the bleach back rower. And the Dragons could not stop the Bulls from getting the full 5 points at the end of the match. The final match saw illustrious names like Finton Gunn, Thomas Clarkson and Liam Turner show up for Leinster in Parma to face Zebre. You already know the result. And so, with the first round post Six Nations done, the SA sides have shown their teeth. The Bulls are already flying high and 5 of their remaining 6 matches are in South Africa. The Stormers play 4 of their remaining 6 at home, and the Lions also only need to beat the treacherous, evil Ospreys this weekend, and then all of their games are in South Africa as well. A late season South African surge up the table has become a bit of a pattern now in the Irk. It'll be interesting to see which teams from the other nations can put some brakes on these sides, and it'll be interesting to see if the SA crowds keep surging as well. Time for a squiz at the Niz. Super Rugby Pacific. Crusaders, still bad. Hurricanes and Chiefs, still good. Brumbies and Reds, still in the thick of it. Entertainment, still excellent. And finally, Mathieu Renal has announced his retirement from refereeing. Danny Kerr has announced his retirement from international rugby, and the Bone Collector has announced his retirement from all forms of rugby. Each of these people have given their heart and soul to the game, and I wish them all well, and thank you for the memories. And I have to announce that I lied earlier. I will not be doing a review of episode 2 of Chasing the Sun 2 next week. I am knackered. Covering the Six Nations is always a lot of fun, but it's always very draining. So I'm going to take a bit of time off, and I will see you all later, some other time. So enjoy the rugby, and bye.